welcome back to the most valuable podcast. I would do an intro. I think I did an intro in the first one of some kind. Not today. This is a quick decision to record this. I decided, let me get something out here because there's been a lot of stuff that's happened since I last recorded, which was I did a mock draft. And obviously, whenever you do a mock draft, you kind of have to be focused on your mock draft. The video for this one is not going to be nearly as important as some other episodes. There's no real visual cues or visual aids, and I don't look that good. So it's pretty much just going to be about some different things that are happening around the sports world. I'm at this current moment, just a quick little discussion on that. A few things that I wanted to talk about, and kind of just catching up on the things that I haven't really been, that I haven't really said anything about. Since the last episode. Biggest thing. Also, I want to say first off, it is episode 2. So, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. Tell the next homeless person you see that he should watch my channel. Don't know if they'll have a phone or a laptop or anything, or really any sort of access to the internet, but give them a chance, right? You never know what can happen. Maybe they could be a supporter, and I could support them too while they get back on their feet. Really the biggest thing going on right now in sport, the two biggest things going on in sports right now have been baseball's back. Opening day was officially yesterday. Officially opening day yesterday, they kind of had like a weird South Korea series with I believe it was the Padres and the Dodgers played like 2 games over there before the season began, but I'm not the biggest baseball guy ever, but you will hear me bring it up once in a while, and I feel like this is a good place to start. I do want to get more into it this season than other seasons because, why not? Just something to entertain myself with whenever I'm bored. And there's been a lot of controversy around baseball's biggest star, and that being Shohei Ohtani with this whole translator thing, the betting. A lot of conversation about kind of which side do you take. As far as I know about the conversation, it boils a lot down to Shohei Ohtani has a translator that is a fraud and has potentially been using Shohei's money to bet on the games, and Shohei might have been telling him to do that. He might have not been telling him to do that. No one really knows. So with that being said, baseball's kind of in a weird spot because I feel like that's been the talking point of baseball, even though the games just began. That was all spring training was, as far as I'm concerned, is just people talking about Shohei's translator. That and the jersey debacle or the uniform debacle, where for whatever reason the Nike decided to cut costs or cheap out on uniforms, and baseball this season just has really crummy, crappy uniforms for whatever. The designs are still cool, but the quality of the uniform went down. Not sure why a company like Nike, working for a company like Major League Baseball, would decide to do budget cuts or whatever, but, that's what happened. I think, a lot of people going into this baseball season kind of looked at, there's obviously, it's the same thing as every other year of baseball from what I can gather as someone who's kind of outside looking in. The Dodgers and the Yankees have all these crazy offseason moves, and then we actually get to the season, and a team that drafted well and made a couple good trades is going to win the World Series. So it's not really like, those two teams are like a lot. This is what it seems to be that there seems to me is what happens in baseball is that like those teams, the Dodgers and the Yankees, get the MVPs and the Cy Young winners, but they don't win the World Series anytime soon. And they might get one every 15 to 20 years to kind of keep the balance restored. But my biggest takeaways from opening day from what I did get to catch are, being a Tigers fan, mostly due to region, and also because I thought I was cool at the time. I loved Miguel Cabrera whenever I first became a fan of them. And now I realize the error in my ways because it makes me want to not even watch baseball, to be completely honest with you. Being somewhat of a Tigers fan, though, they won their first game of the season, so let's clap it up for that. Tigers fans, Tariq Skubal only gave up a 3-hit game, but it comes with a grain of salt because they played the White Sox, and for anyone that knows anything about baseball, the White Sox might be one of the worst baseball teams, not just in the world right now, or not just in the MLB right now, but definitely like in the past however many years, one of the worst baseball teams. And If you want to know why they're on such a downward swing, don't actually watch any of their games. Just look up Jose Ramirez, Tim Anderson. Was that Jose that did that? Just look up Tim Anderson KO. It's probably a good search for you. And that sequence perfectly represents exactly how their past 2 or 3 years have gone. But hey, Tigers want to know. I'm going to keep up on that. I'm going to keep track of that. And we'll see how we go. Now, as of recording this, it is Friday the 29th. I might post this tonight also. Why not? For my late night people. Baseball's obviously, I mean, these first series are getting through. One of the other games that I caught on opening night was obviously the Diamondbacks just straight up deciding to put up 16 runs in the first 3 innings and then not score again for the rest of the game. They say, we're done. We're good. Let's just blow them out. Really what it was, if you didn't watch that game, because it was a 14-run inning, the most runs in a single inning. I almost said the most innings in a single run. The most runs in a single inning on opening day since 1900. 1900. That's a crazy. That's one of those crazy baseball stats you just gotta love. They had a really weird game after that though, because the Rockies were trying to figure out pitchers, and at the end of that 14-run inning, the guy that actually got the final outs, they brought in a lefty, and after they brought in that lefty, the Diamondbacks just kind of they're like, okay, yeah, we can't really hit off this lefty, so we're just going to coast the rest of the game and win this. A couple other score lines from around the MLB that kind of might be important. The Yankees barely got the win over the Astros. That one was pretty cool. Juan Soto doing his thing in his first game as a Yankee. He hit an RBI single, which gave them their first run, and then that kind of got the ball rolling, got everything going for them. Another big game, or at least another good finish around the big leagues was which let me find the actual score here for this game, but I caught the end of the Rangers-Cubs game, which was the only game on opening day that went to extras. And dude, the Rangers, Jonah Heim tried to throw the game away because he had an absolute bonehead moment. He thought it was a foul ball. It was kind of a wild pitch scenario. He thought there was like a foul ball. Maybe he thought it hit the bat. I can't remember exactly the scenario. It was just a very weird. Yeah, it was a foul tip, and he didn't finish the play, and he was just like arguing with the umpire. And meanwhile, the Cubs just have a base runner just flying to home, gives up the run, ties the game up. Like I said, pretty much like ruined their chance of just walking out with a dub. And so they had to make this like comeback to win this game. And he was the one that got the walk-off, so shout out to him on banner night. The Rangers look like a team that could go back-to-back. I'm not going to lock it in, though. I think the Braves, from what I've heard people say, but also from what I've seen, definitely a good team to look at for the potential World Series chance. I mean, they have Spencer Strider. They have a bunch of good hitters. Obviously, Ronald Acuna. They're a really good, fun team. Matt Olson's also still there. Michael Harris. Like, there's Ozzy Albies awesome. There's a lot of guys here. The only other thing for baseball that I really want to bring up, though, because I thought it was very, very cool, Seymour Wiener got honored at a game over the opening day stretch. It was for the New York Mets. He is an Army veteran, and I just want to say, everybody give your love and thanks for the service of Seymour Wiener. Definitely the oldest wiener in that ballpark. I'm stealing that joke from someone. Yeah, definitely one of the older wieners in that park. Seymour Wiener. I feel bad for the guy, though. He's a Mets fan, so he's definitely not seen a lot of winning. But, sometimes wieners are sad. So let's go ahead and move on to March Madness, because that's been going on during this whole stretch where I wasn't recording anything the past 2 weeks or whatever it was, 3 weeks. And really, man, so as I'm recording this, Houston and Duke are going at it, as well as Creighton and Tennessee. And I want to kind of air out my grievances a little bit with the scheduling of March Madness. The games today were all late. And I know that it's a Friday. I know that people are at work, but you could have started one of these games a little bit earlier. I want to say Gonzaga, Purdue, and Marquette, NC State both started at 7, like 7, 7:15, 7:30 range. Or I think like 7, maybe around, just somewhere around 7 o'clock. And then obviously these other two games started at 10. That is so weird. I know it's a Friday. Start a game at 5, start a game at 7, and then you can leave the other two for later. Or you can do a game at 5, 2 at 7. Just if you're going to do this, like you're basically giving people, you're forcing people to choose between a game because they're starting at the exact same time. And we are in the third round. There's only 16 teams, which means there's only 8 games to play. I get that you have to get them done on 2 days, but I feel like the scheduling, and this has been a problem forever, so it's never going to change because they want to try to get stuff done in a certain timeline. Obviously, it's March Madness. It's not Spring Madness. It's not going to end in May. But I don't know. Part of me wants them to just spread these games out so I don't have to feel like I have to choose. But you also have the women's tournament going on at the same time also. So it's like if you're a fan of any of these teams, you're just kind of like, I can't keep up with everything. If you want to know how my bracket's doing, it got busted pretty quickly whenever Kentucky lost. That was a pretty big one for me. And then really I think the other big one was I had Western Kentucky upsetting Marquette. I just had a feeling. Now, granted, they just went out today in the Sweet 16. They got eliminated, so that feels good. But the only thing that's really kind of keeping me in it, so obviously UNC also, they lost yesterday in the Sweet 16. They were my champion. So my bracket's completely screwed. And the only thing that can really make me feel okay about my bracket at this point is the fact that I got Grand Canyon winning correct because everybody was on the Grand Canyon hype train and I was fully with them. And so obviously having that felt pretty good. Having James Madison felt good. So I got both of the 12 upsets correct. I didn't guess any other 12 upsets besides that. And I think my favorite pick that I had was Duquesne. I had Duquesne winning. Feel good about that. And I didn't fall for the McNeese hype train. I didn't fall for that at all. I had Gonzaga exactly as far as they went. I've actually had that part of the bracket, that region. What is it, the Midwest region? I've had that region almost completely spot on. So, we go into it, the Elite Eight, where basically the best team of every region gets sorted out. And the way the bracket's fallen right now, I think my predictions for the Final Four based on the way the bracket's fallen is UConn for sure. I think between Bama and Clemson, the way those two teams have played, I'm actually leaning Clemson in that game. Even though Bama beat the slightly better team, Arizona and North Carolina are very, very close to how good they are of each other. And I think Clemson just played a better game against Arizona than Alabama played against North Carolina. Granted, I didn't see the entire game of both those games. I just kind of saw the finishes, but I think I'd probably go Clemson in that game. And then, like I said, I'd go UConn over Illinois. And then I think Purdue beats whoever comes out of the Midwest, which is, like I said, that game's going on right now. It's either Creighton or Tennessee. I think Purdue probably beats the winner of that game, but I'm kind of pulling for Creighton because I picked them in the Final Four. And then NC State versus the winner of Duke and Houston. I don't care who wins that game. It's good. They're going to beat NC State. I think the Final Four, give me Houston, Purdue, UConn, Clemson, which I know that's 3 number 1 seeds. They're probably every team that I just picked is probably going to lose. So that's pretty much everything for that part of March Madness. Not really going to go too much further into that though, because like I said, my bracket is killed, absolutely ruined. I'm just not. It's impossible to predict, guys. It's the hardest thing in sports to predict, besides what Antonio Brown's next tweet's going to be about. Actually, that's not even that hard to predict, though. Just pick a random white athlete who'll probably talk about him. I do want to talk about the women's side of it a little bit because the Audie Crooks short little run there for Iowa State was very, very fun. Her versus Cameron Brink was a very fun time. I really enjoyed that game. My IU Hoosiers, they weren't in the men's tournament, but the women's team made it, and they almost got it done against South Carolina, but that's probably the best team in the nation. So, I mean, impressive enough that they played as good as they did. I'm not mad at it at all. Really, I think the team to look out for was always South Carolina, but UCLA and LSU play each other tomorrow, And the winner of that game takes on the winner of Iowa and Colorado, which means Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese is probably looming, probably in the works. Which still don't know why they put them in the same region, but it is what it is. And then we might get Juju Watkins versus Caitlin Clark after that in the Final Four if both teams can make it there. We're going to get Juju Watkins versus either Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark most likely, unless UCLA decides they want to take it all there. Um, I mean, I'm still rooting for Caitlin Clark in that, and that actually gives me a good transition to the next thing I wanted to bring up, which this is kind of a niche, fun little topic for me because I want to kind of educate a few of you guys on a league called BIG3 that you might not know about because it's not really that big of a league. Um, the BIG3 was founded by Ice Cube, and by whenever you hear the name BIG3, and it's a basketball league, you probably think, okay, like the Miami Heat, things like that. You're basketball, you're BIG3. You think Miami Heat, you think, um, Allen Garnett Pierce, you think Duncan Ginobili Parker, right? The BIG3 league, though, was founded by Ice Cube as a way to kind of bring back like I don't even know how to describe the mentality of the BIG3 whenever it first came around because I feel like Ice Cube thought that he could create like a spectacle, and that's kind of what it was at first. To break down for you what it is, though, it's 3-on-3 basketball. It is half court, obviously, because you wouldn't really want to play full court 3-on-3. That'd be kind of nuts. And in the inaugural season, even I think the second or third season up to this point, they still had it. There's an age limit. You had to be a certain age. You had to be older to play in the BIG3 because the idea was to try to convince aging NBA players that weren't really getting spots or retired NBA players or guys that were just kind of behind the eight ball at that point in their career. The idea was to get them roped into a league where they could still compete and still kind of feel like they had a chance to be, a great player, win some championships, make a lot of money, right? So therefore, the BIG3 was formed, and it was 3-on-3 basketball because that's less strenuous, that's less, wear and tear on the body. So the BIG3 comes around, and the first season had a few names in it that everybody's going to recognize: Jason Williams, White Chocolate, Mike Bibby, who's a few? Steven Jackson. A few guys that you're going to recognize. You're going to be like, that's pretty cool to see him play basketball again. Katino Mobley's been in it the entire time. Gennaro Pargo. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was like 50-something cooking, right? And the BIG3 had 2 or 3 things really going for it that were kind of pushing it to being kind of a success, right? Let's go with 3 things here. 1, Ice Cube was marketing the hell out of this thing. He was going in every publication or every TV show he possibly could and pushing it as hard as he could. He got a CBS Sports deal with it, which meant that they got a few different blocks on main CBS TV for it. So that was great. That was a great thing out of Ice Cube, right? He was marketing the hell out of it. That's a start. B, it was a brand new type of idea, and it was he had the right mentality to go about a league like BIG3. 3v3 basketball is a thing that is played internationally, played in the Olympics, has tournaments. I mean, it is a real deal, and nobody cares. Like, me telling you that might have been the first time that you've even heard that 3v3 basketball is an Olympic sport / international sport. So, actually, it might not be Olympic. It might just be international, but it's played. It's played. For the love of the game. So with that being said, he had to do something to kind of boost or to like give you a reason to want to watch. So one of the things that it had going for it, I'd say this is probably the most important thing that it had going for it. They added a few rules that made the game kind of, I don't know, it made players feel almost, it made each individual player feel kind of important in a way because there are certain things that you can do in those games that you can't do in the NBA. 4-point shots, limited free throws, and one of the things that they kind of substituted for free throws are certain fouls and certain things, which they made this more important as the years went on. You would just have a one-on-one, like 7-second shot clock just isolation bucket attempt. And that was pretty much it, right? Just a few different things that kind of made it really fun to watch these old school players play against each other. And it's a lot of isolation ball since it's 3v3. It's a lot of old school mid-range buckets, and the scoring of it, the rules, like the rules for scoring were pretty cool too, because you played a game to 60 at first. It initially was to 60. You got to 30 points and you went to halftime, and all of those games had a time limit on them. So if they never did reach the 60-point mark, the game would still end with a clock. Eventually, they evolved that to a much better system where it's just a game to 50 with no clock, and you would go to halftime at 20. First team at 25, and halftime was like however many minutes long, and you got a good break. I mean, a lot of these guys were older. The Big Three had two major flops in their history. They put a lot of stock into Allen Iverson playing in their league. He came in and was kind of like a half coach, half player, played maybe a third of a game, and they didn't even get a chance to broadcast it on CBS. It was just a game that happened for a live crowd where he played maybe, like I said, a third of the game, a fourth of the game, and then he didn't suit up again. So that's the first thing that hurt it. And then the second thing that hurt it was Jason Williams, White Chocolate, getting injured like 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the season, and you kind of saw that injury convinced a lot of the older guys to be like, I don't want to really do that. Like, that's like, the guys that were already going to play, that were already making money doing it, and were already kind of like amped up to play basketball again, they were still doing it. But it kind of made it harder for them to get new talent into the league after he got hurt. And so what I kind of noticed was, as the years went on, they kind of had to realize that, yeah, we're not going to be able to get talent on this roster, or on any of these rosters. And they were expanding too. They had like a eight team league, I think, at first, or something like that, 6 or 8 teams, and eventually they got up to 12. And when they expanded, they were like, we have to lower the age limit to make this work. So that was kind of the two flops were Allen Iverson and the age limit. COVID obviously hurt them a little bit as well, but out of the pandemic, the Big Three's kind of they're still running. And with the lowered age limit, there's a lot more guys that play that you would have just never heard of. And they haven't been able to get any of the big names that I thought they could get. Like, Carmelo Anthony has been the guy that I've always penciled in as, like, his play style would be perfect for the Big Three. And if you look at the best player in Big Three history, by far, has been ISO Joe Johnson. If you look at the way Carmelo plays, the way Joe Johnson plays, the era they both came out of, it's the exact same. There's no reason Carmelo couldn't go there and drop 33 points a game in a game to 50. There's no reason he couldn't. Dwight Howard could have came from Taiwan and played there, even though he's a little bit sus. Maybe we leave him in Taiwan, actually. I think what Ice Cube is doing, offering Caitlin Clark, and this is how I had to give you the backstory of Big Three, because I know a lot of people didn't know about it. And there's a lot more I can dive into that with. It'd be really fun to make a video on Big Three. I wish I knew how to edit. Maybe I'll hit up somebody that I know and be like, hey, let me make a deep dive into Big Three. I'll give you some different clips to use and stuff. Do I want to be like the Big Three's biggest analyst? Is that going to be my thing whenever the Big Three season starts up? But the coolest and, like, neatest idea that Ice Cube could have had right now, because he's been struggling for relevancy for this shit for 3 years now, since they came back after the pandemic. They've just been fighting, crawling for every bit of relevancy they can find. He offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in the Big Three, and the reason that's so funny is because Ice Cube has $5 million. And the Big Three would make a lot of money having her against former NBA players and guys that are fresh out of college that are really still talented basketball players and that are all men. The WNBA contract that she's going to get if she just gets drafted number 1, which she'll probably go to the Indiana Fever. My team, my girls, my gals up there at the Indiana Fever, the contract she'd be getting from them is not even going to touch $5 million. And that's what makes it funny, is that Ice Cube might actually have a point. Not a point. I don't know why I said a point. But he might actually have a chance, right? Now, Caitlin Clark's kind of come out and said that she's worried about March Madness. And if she doesn't win in March Madness, if she doesn't make it to the Final Four, she's going to go try out for the Olympic team because obviously the Olympics are coming up. So, I mean, I get that, and I don't blame her at all. And that would be my priority too if I were her. I wouldn't even worry about the big three, but she should at least consider it for the brand. Because if she went to the big three and cooked, which I think she probably would at her age, I can't lie to y'all, she would be the biggest female basketball star of all time. And she already almost is. Actually, I think she pretty much already is. Because like the way that she's been bringing college crowds has just completely transcended the sport. But man, that would be the ultimate like popularity move if she just went to the big three and it's just her hitting step back threes on Nick Young. Like if she's just like cooking Swaggy P, playing for a team called the Ball Hogs or something. I mean that's enough for me, right? That's enough for me to get into it. That's enough for me to really be a big time Caitlin Clark supporter. And then she can come to the Fever and win us a couple championships, and maybe we can be the best of friends because she plays in Indiana. I also want to shout out, speaking of leagues that have kind of just randomly existed, as of recording this and as of probably uploading this, tomorrow is the debut, which you're probably watching this on the day of the debut or after the debut or in 10 years. Maybe you're a time traveler and you're actually watching this 15 years ago. Is that how that works? The UFL, the combination of the USFL, the United States Football League, and the XFL, the Extreme Football. They never actually did specify what the acronym was this go around. They combined into the UFL. That's starting back up. A couple players to mention across the league that I noticed immediately as being players in this league. Matt Corral getting a starting quarterback job in a professional football league is pretty cool. Slade Bolden is playing in it. If you watch SEC football at all, you know who that is. There's a few guys I need to go back through and refresh. I need to actually do some more deep dives into some UFL, and definitely whenever they get started, I will do some podcasting and some different things about it. Because so the UFL coming back and being branded so heavily as like an NFL farm system is very fun to me. Because there's a lot of guys, and Matt Corral's the first guy that comes to my mind, because there's a lot of guys like that who I think deserve another chance in the league. And this is a perfect chance for them to get playing time, where in the NFL, there really is no playing time to go around with as many guys as there are. So I'm excited for the UFL. I'm excited to see how it goes. It's not going to be like the second iteration of the or the XFL where COVID was enough to kill it. It's not going to be like the first XFL. It's not going to be like the AAF. Shout out the Alliance of American Football. That lasted like 8 weeks. It's not going to be like Slam Ball's return, where Slam Ball came back and it was, what the hell are we even doing here? You're putting this shit on ESPN Plus at like 10 o'clock at night, and you're running like miniature tournaments where nobody cares. And the games were bad, too. The UFL has a lot of potential because of how closely partnered you can tell they're going to be with The Rock in charge with the NFL, right? Now, I was kind of having this internal discussion about if spring football can really lead to NFL contracts without killing the spring football league, and I say that in a way because really what I look at is I don't know if you can run spring football. And because in the NBA, right, they have the G League. And this is going to be some food for thought, right? You have the G League. It runs at the same time as the NBA. The G League, I went to a G League game. It was a great time. Such a good time. I'm in a building in Gainbridge Fieldhouse that holds like 18 to 20,000 people. There was maybe 100 fans there. That's every G League game for every G League team, unless something crazy happens, right? So if you think about it that way, the NBA running the G League at the same time as the NBA hurts the G League, and it makes it where the G League's kind of going to be losing money, right? Why do they do that? Well, they have to do that because when the G League players get called up, or if they're on a two-way contract, which a two-way contract just means they can flip back and forth between the two leagues at any time that the team wants them to, they have to be in game shape. And you can't be in NBA game shape without playing games. That's just how basketball works. So they kind of have to. That's kind of the necessity of it, right? That's kind of the point of it. With football, though, it's kind of hard because if you do that, if you do them at the same time, players are going to get hurt. You might want to call somebody up. Dude, this guy's having a great week 3. It's the second quarter, and he just had 3 rushing touchdowns in the first quarter, and then he blows his ACL, or some craziness will happen, right? I think the biggest problem, and this is going to be the thing that I'm going to kind of leave out an open-ended question for anybody to comment and respond with. In a spring football league, do you think anyone could get signed after playing an entire season of spring football? Or, if they're going to get signed, does it kind of have to happen mid-season or in an early week of the season? And I ask that because really, outside of kickers, punters, long snappers, and quarterbacks, and maybe a wide receiver, you're going to get too banged up to play a full season of spring football, which I think is like a 10-week season or whatever they're going to play, and then have training camp in like 2 or 3 months, and then have a season like a month after that. I think it's too much. And I think the only players that are going to be good enough to play in the NFL are all going to be weeded out by week 5 of the UFL. And if they're good enough to play in the NFL after that, or if they're good enough to play in the NFL and they're still in the UFL after that, they're probably not going to get picked up until a practice squad spot opens up mid-season during the NFL. And if that happens, they're probably not going to get any playing time. So like I said, I just kind of asked that question. Do you think anybody could really get picked up after a full season of UFL and still be healthy enough and still not have the surgeries and still... I'm it makes it feel like if they're in the only way that the NFL can benefit the UFL, and I think that this is, I mean, you're seeing it now because that is one other thing I wanted to bring up is the kickoff rule change, being the XFL's old kickoff rules. Use the UFL the same way the NBA uses the G League. Test out these rule proposals in the UFL. If they look good or if they work, implement them in the NFL. If they don't, who cares? Because like the G League, for example, I went to that G League game. They had a rule where for free throws, unless it's the final 2 minutes of the second or fourth quarter, I think it was just the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, now that I think about it, every foul, shooting foul, or foul in the bonus, you shot one free throw for 2 points if it was a 2-point attempt, or 3 points if it was a 3-point attempt. You only shot one free throw every time. So the PA announcer would say shooting 1 for 2 or shooting 1 for 3. If they make it, 3 points. If they make it 2 points. If they miss it, no points. And it's just one free throw. Final 2 minutes of the game, stuff matters more, crunch time, every free throw. You have to shoot all the free throws, right? You get 2 free throws. You don't just get the one attempt. So they test out rules. I think the UFL should be a testing site in a lot of ways. Kind of the guinea pig league, if you will. Because the NFL hasn't really had that, to be honest. Like, they haven't really... Like, NFL Europe back in the day might have tested some rules out, but I've never heard of it. I mean, I need to look into it, but I don't think they ever did. So that'd be something to do. Something that I think can make the UFL way more interesting, too, is if they're testing stuff out, like they give them more reason to watch. I don't disagree with it being in spring, though, and I don't want my kind of tangent there to act like I disagree with it being in spring, because I love having more football to watch during the offseason, especially this part of the offseason where we're kind of between free agency and the draft, where there's kind of this lull point where you're kind of just waiting for the draft to happen. So yeah, I'm excited to see, though, what happens with the UFL's debut now that they've merged these two leagues. Because the USFL had a couple good ideas, had a few really good players, and then the XFL obviously had quite a fun revamp. And obviously The Rock and Danny Garcia being in charge now, we're going to see how everything looks, see the presentation, see if they keep a lot of the things the XFL was doing presentation-wise, but keep kind of the quality of play that both leagues had. Because the XFL had a few guys that Like, the big one was P.J. Walker. P.J. Walker was just dogging motherfuckers. I mean, he was cooking. And then he gets in the NFL and he gets some starts, too. I mean, it was very, very fun for P.J. Walker, more than anybody, really. A.J. McCarron, MVP run, I'm here for it. Nothing really. I guess the only other thing that went on, I mean, the NFL, I mean, Hassan Reddick just got traded to the Jets. How much help does Aaron Rodgers need? I think one of the next shows that I do want to do, I almost said do. One of the next shows that I want to do is definitely talking more about the NBA season. I feel like I haven't really touched on it much. There is one other topic, and it is basketball related. Now, since we've kind of been still touching on basketball, I didn't really want to talk about it too much just because it's stupid. But the Jonte Porter thing, if you're going to gamble on yourself, do not gamble on the under. And it's basically just, if you want to hear a good rant about it, look up Pierre or Pee Wee the Plug, Pee Wee the Plug, Pierre Andreessen from Numbers on the Board. They're partnered with Omaha Productions, Enjoy Basketball. Easily one of my biggest inspirations for a show. Pierre had a perfect, like, all-time rant about Jonte Porter. It was great. Basically, his main point was, if you're going to bet as an athlete, bet on yourself to win, or bet on your own over, and try to motivate yourself to play even better, or be confident in yourself. Betting on your under, or telling people that you know close to bet on your under, and then asking the coach to sit out the rest of the game because you're sick, because you're not a valuable player to the team, that proves to me why you're not a valuable player to the team. And how much you just enjoy living off your brother's money because he's a much better NBA player and you can just deal with that. Sorry, Jonte, it's what it is. But yeah, I think one of the next episodes I want to do is getting more into the NBA, probably whenever the playoffs are about to start here in the next few weeks. And then after that little playoff preview of sorts, we're going to have the NFL draft. And I actually, depending on my work situation, because I mean, full-time job here, full-time job being a stud, if I can get around it with my full-time job, I do kind of want to do an NFL draft live stream, potentially. I don't know if anybody will tune in because there's a million live streams to watch. But why not get in on all the fun? It's one of the most exciting nights of the year, especially for someone like me. And the Colts have a first-round pick this year, and maybe they won't trade out of it. So it'd be something for me to celebrate, something for me to get excited about, something for me to react to in the moment. So I think that was just about everything I wanted to touch on in this exact moment. If I want to touch on anything else, please stop me. But if I want to talk about anything else, I will just come back and do another one because I don't really have a schedule right now. Give it some time, though, I hope at one point to have, maybe potentially move. And then, obviously if that ends up coming to fruition, maybe I'll build myself a little bit of a set almost. Maybe get myself an actual microphone instead of just talking into an iPhone headset or earbuds. Because I know the audio quality ain't good. Y'all don't have to even tell me. Video quality, it is what it is. It's a podcast too, but the audio quality is bad, man. It's just not good, man. So, yeah, I think that was just about everything for right now, though. And at some point, Jose Aldo's about to fight again before too long, and UFC 300's coming up, so a fighting episode might come around soon, because I love me some UFC. Outside of that, about 40 minutes of podcasting, that's fine with me. My throat's getting a little bit dry, scratchy, and y'all don't want to hear me cough up a lung on camera. It's gross, it's ugly, especially if you see my face doing it. Ugh, just not a good look for anybody. So, yeah, with that being said, y'all enjoy yourselves. Have a great night, morning, day, or afternoon, or evening. And I have been Smitty the King, and this was the most valuable podcast. See.